The rain fell in heavy sheets that morning in 1990, drenching the vast Luban of Sta Cruz, Marinduque, where the coconut trees swayed like silent sentinels under a gray sky. I was only 9, chasing chicks with my cousins, our laughter cutting through the damp air like it could ward off the chill that had settled in my bones. But then I saw her, the old woman, with eyes that gleamed too brightly, her gnarled hand stroking my mother's swollen belly as if it were a prize. My mother collapsed moments later, clutching her stomach, her cries piercing the storm. That was the day the Aswang found us, and the nightmare that followed still whispers in my dreams, reminding me that some hungers never die. We weren't from Marinduque, not really. My family hailed from Manila, where the city noise drowned out the old tales my Lola used to spin about shapeshifters and night stalkers. But every Holy Week we'd pack into the jeepney and head to the province for vacation, staying until school called us back. It was a ritual, reuniting with cousins, helping with the copra harvest, and basking in the simple life under the mango trees. That year, though, everything felt off from the start. The air was thicker, laced with a faint, unexplained rot that the adults dismissed as the aftermath of a dead animal in the fields. I remember my 8 whispering to me as we unpacked, "Something's watching us, Kia. Don't you feel it?" I laughed it off, but deep down, a knot twisted in my gut. My mother, Minda, was 7 months pregnant with our bunso, her belly round and heavy under her simple duster dress. She moved slower that trip, but she insisted on helping Lolo with the animals. "It's good luck," she'd say, smiling through the fatigue. That rainy morning, she let us kids, me, my 2 sisters, and a handful of cousins, to the Cubo and the Luban. The place was a sprawling wilderness, endless rows of coconut palms stretching to the horizon, their fronds rustling like whispers in the wind. Bermuda grass cushioned our bare feet, soft and slick from the downpour. In the distance, cows lowed lazily, unaware of the shadows lurking beyond sight. We played while she checked on the chickens, goats, and pigs. The rain pattered on our skin, cool and invigorating, turning the ground into a muddy playground. That's when the old woman appeared, as if materializing from the mist. She was hunched, her borrowed saya soaked and clinging to her frail frame, her hair a wild tangle of gray. I glimpsed her from the corner of my eye, approaching my mother with a shuffling gait. "Nane's friend?" I muttered to my cousin, but he just shrugged, too busy splashing in puddles. They talked, or rather, the woman murmured while my mother nodded politely. Her hand reached out, fingers splayed like claws, gently at first, then insistently pressing against the curve of my mother's pregnancy. There was something unnatural in her expression, a hunger, eyes widening with a feverish gleam. The air grew heavier, the rain's rhythm slowing as if time itself hesitated. Then, without warning, my mother gasped, doubling over. She hit the ground hard, mud splattering her dress, her hands cradling her belly as sobs racked her body. We froze. The old woman was gone, vanished. In that open expanse with no cover but distant trees, it was impossible. "Nane," my 8 screamed, rushing forward. I followed, heart pounding, scanning the horizon for any sign of the stranger. Nothing, just the endless green and the relentless rain. My cousin bolted for help, his small legs churning through the muck toward Tito's house, a cluster of cubos a short sprint away, where more animals grazed under the watchful eye of my Lola's brother. We huddled around my mother, her face pale, tears mixing with rain. "It hurts. Oh, God, it hurts," she whimpered, rocking back and forth. That's when the smell hit my 8 and cousin, wrinkled their noses, gagging. "It's like rotten meat baked in the sun," my 8 choked out, her eyes darting wildly. "Where's it coming from?" I sniffed the air, but caught only the earthy petrichor of wet soil. "You're imagining it," I said, trying to sound brave, but my voice trembled. Inside, doubt crept in like fog. What if they were right? What if something unseen lingered, watching us from the shadows of the palms? Tito arrived minutes later, his burly frame cutting through the storm, sons in tow. He cursed under his breath, puting Ina, sniffing the air like a hound. Before scooping my mother up, his eyes scanned the Luban, narrowing at invisible threats. Inside his cubo, the air was thick with the scent of damp wood and animal feed. He sprinkled ashes and salt around the windows, murmuring prayers in a low, rhythmic chant that sent shivers down my spine. "Fetch the albilario," he barked at another cousin, who nodded and dashed off into the rain. The albilario, another Lolo, kin through my Lola, was an hour's trek away. A healer whispered to hold secrets from the old world, hairs from a tikbalan, charms against the unseen. While we waited, Tito paced, his voice a growl. "Those damned Aswang, no respect for daylight. Minda, why talk to strangers?" And with only kids for company, my mother couldn't answer. Curled in pain, silent tears streaming. He shook his head. "Lucky you have that anting from him. Saved you from worse." I didn't understand then the tales of Aswang, flesh-eaters who crave the unborn, shifting forms to stalk the living. But the fear in his eyes planted seeds of terror in my young mind. The albilario arrived soaked, but steady, his weathered face etched with ancient knowledge. He whispered over a glass of water, his breath fogging the surface, then coaxed my mother to drink. Miraculously, the pain ebbed. She sat up, color returning, but her voice was hushed as she confided in him. The old woman's salivating mouth, her trembling excitement, the urge to bite into flesh. He blew gently on her forehead, tied a red cloth pouch around her neck, filled with herbs and whispers, and arranged for paragas to carry her home. The carabao's hooves sloshing through the mud. Home was a 2-story bahay na bato by the roadside, elevated on stone pillars, surrounded by mango trees that loomed like guardians. The forest pressed at our backs, a tangled mass of vines and secrets. That evening, as we gathered for hapunan around the long wooden table, rice, adobo, and fresh buko unis simmered. Lola glanced repeatedly at the Kappa's shell windows, her spoon pausing mid-air. Lolo sat stoic, but his eyes flicked to every shadow. The other relatives had gone to town for the night, leaving us isolated, just us kids, my mother, and the elders. Then it started. A chorus of snores, deep, guttural, unnatural, erupted outside the window behind my mother. Not one pig, but many, clustered impossibly in one spot. Our area had strays, but this— Lola slammed the window shut, her hands shaking. Lolo chuckled darkly. "Let them see what they want. They'll regret it." The snores faded, but the air thickened, charged with anticipation. I felt it then, a prickling on my skin, like eyes boring into me from the dark. By 8 p.m., we huddled in the downstairs bedroom, the rain a distant drum. That's when the flapping began, massive wings beating the air, circling the house like a predator's shadow. Banging followed fists, claws, rattling doors and windows, insistent, desperate. The dogs outside fell silent, not a bark. My mother's stomach cramped again. She cried out, clutching the red pouch. We wept with her, terror coiling in our chests. Isolation pressed in the forest, a black void, the road empty. A voice called from outside, my father's, pleading, "Minda, open up, it's me." But Tate was in Manila. Lolo roared from upstairs, "You bastards, we spared you this morning, now this. I know you're kind. Stop or blood spills tonight." The assault intensified. Stomps, scratches, the house vibrating. Then a crash from above. Something heavy leaped from the window, branches snapping like bones. A thud shook the foundations, followed by guttural screams, choking, frantic. Claws scraped cement, footsteps fled into the night. Silence descended, broken only by our sobs. A knock. Lola opened the door, smiling faintly. "It's over, Apo. Sleep." But curiosity burned. I crept to the window, peeking through a crack. Two colossal figures stood in the moonlight, one grinning at Lola, the other facing Lolo. The second was monstrous, a single blazing red eye, fangs like boar tusks curving upward, a thick snout dangling like an armadillo's. It hefted a wooden club and a limp human form over its shoulder. Lolo spoke low, the creature laughing, until it locked eyes with me, grinning wider, pointing. It faded like smoke. Lolo entered, bloodied bolo in hand, wiping crimson from his palms. Morning revealed stains, pools on the ground, trails vanishing into the trees, smears on the ancient mango trunk. No wounds on our animals. Lolo buried sharpened bamboo stakes around the property, wards against return. It never did, at least, not then. But whispers persisted. Lolo and the Albulario vanishing into the province, hunting the Aswang clan one by one. Their powers tick-bowing strength. Ancient rites kept us safe until the earthquake of July 16, 1990. Lolo perished, crushed in the rubble. His last thoughts of us in Manila. Official reports called it natural disaster, magnitude 7.8, hundreds dead. But I wonder now, in the quiet nights of 2025, as I retell this for you, was it truly natural? Or did the Aswang deny their feast, summon vengeance from the earth itself? Years later, pregnant with my own child, I visited Marinduque. The Luban felt the same rain-slick grass, whispering palms. An old woman approached, eyes gleaming, hand outstretched toward my belly. The rot returned, faint but unmistakable. I fled, but sometimes in Manila's bustle, I hear flapping wings at my window, and I clutch my own red pouch, wondering if the hunger ever ends. Subscribe for more chilling tales.